You've got your buying criteria, you know how to analyze deals, you've got your team, everything's set. It's time to make an offer. So once you find a property that meets your criteria, we make an offer. One thing you probably notice is once you wrote all your criteria out and then you search for properties that fit that criteria, there's only a couple. There's really not very many. So, and if there's a lot, then your criteria is too wide. You need to narrow it down. Okay. So we're going to make an offer. Now I'm going to put together a sample offer, and you can download it below so you can see what it all looks like and read through the contracts and everything. So that's what I'm going to be referring to. But this is the formal contract. You sign it, e-sign it, and then your broker writes it up, you e-sign it, and then we submit it to the seller or the agent representing the seller. Okay, so here's the basic breakdown, the key components of a purchase and sale agreement, which is the front page of the offer. It's actually 5 pages long. So the purchase and sale agreement, key components, offer price, obviously, right? How much we're going to offer coming in. Okay, closing date, this is saying when we're going to be able to close this loan. Typically we do about 45 days or less, so we need about a week for due diligence, and we need about 30 days to close the loan. So typically about 45 days. Earnest money amount, so when you present the offer, once they accept it, you as a buyer have to put down earnest money, and that's held by escrow, which secures the deal. If we default on the contract, you could lose the earnest money, which again is why it's so important that you hire an agent that will protect your earnest money at all costs, okay? In a second, I'm going to talk about the contingencies, and those protect your earnest money. But for right now, the earnest money amount is the amount that we're going to put at escrow, and those funds will be applied to your down payment, your closing costs, and it really represents your seriousness of moving forward. So if all other things are the same, the purchase price, the close date, everything's the same on your offer and other people's offers, one thing that could push us over the edge is having a higher earnest. Contingencies. These are the other variables that can dictate how strong or weak an offer is. So the key contingencies that we'll usually have are financing contingency, okay, property inspection, and lease review. So your financing contingency is basically you're saying, hey, we need to, this deal is contingent upon me, the buyer, getting the financing that I have, which is why to be competitive, you need to be underwritten, which is pretty much telling the seller, like, it's dependent on me getting the financing. I already basically have the financing. We just need the property to appraise, and then the bank will give us the loan. Okay, so that's financing contingency. Property inspection is very standard. We need to inspect the whole property. Okay. And then lease review. If the property is currently rented out, say it's a duplex, we're going to look at the current leases. We're going to look at the profit and loss, the paperwork, make sure that, they told us that this unit is renting for $1,500. Well, I want to see the lease terms, and I want to see the payment record of the tenants. Like, are they paying on time? Are they actually paying $1,500 a month? What are the terms of their lease, etc. Okay, so lease. In a competitive offer situation, waiving contingencies makes your offer stronger. So the more contingencies you have, which makes sense, right? With the more contingencies you have, the weaker the offer is from the seller's point of view. So if I have 2 offers, and they both offer me $400,000, and they both have a $10,000 earnest money, and they both have a financing contingency, and one has an inspection contingency of, let's say, 3 days, and one waived inspection. Well, as a seller, which offer would you be more interested in accepting? The one without the inspection, right? Because then the only reason that deal would not fall through, or the only reason that deal would fall through is if the bank doesn't appraise. Okay, so if we can play those variables, and depending on the situation and the offer situation and the competitiveness of the deal and the market at the time that you write an offer, we'll play with these variables to secure the deal as needed. And again, these are all negotiating. When you submit an offer, the seller could counter the offer. So you submit an offer, and then you can get a counter. We call it a counter back. So, or a counter, same thing. So let's say they have it listed for $450. You want to put in an offer at, or what did I put? $485, and we offer $450 with a $5,000 earnest money. And then the seller could counter back. Let's say they counter back at $465 with a $10,000 earnest money. And then we go, well, sure, we'll meet the $465, but I only want to put $5,000. So you can go back and forth, countering each other forever until everybody gets frustrated and just kills the deal. So sometimes you go back and forth on a couple counters, and every time you do that, you have to initial the changes on the paperwork. So you counter, and sometimes the deal never comes through. We can't come to an agreement, and we just forget about it and move on. Or sometimes we come to an agreement, and now everybody's signed off on the terms. Once that happens, that's called mutual acceptance. So both seller and buyer have signed off on everything, and we've reached mutual acceptance. This is a big deal. So once mutual acceptance is achieved, then you as a buyer have 48 hours to put your earnest money in. Put your earnest money down at escrow. Everybody gets a copy of that receipt to ensure that happened, and we begin our due diligence process. So the next video is about what we do during our due diligence.